Hello, let's get started. So now I am giving you an introduction on question 2 of the sample question for week 1, okay, which is market equilibrium. And those questions are extended from the example on the bottom half of page 26 of your e-textbook. So let's look at this question. I'm gonna write the question on this sheet, okay, and this question will be later on posted to Canvas itself, including the question itself and my handwriting answer key. Okay, so here the first question is we are to find inverse demand. Okay, and here it's put as P parenthesis, and inside of the parenthesis is Q. That is to say, here we should express P as a function of Q. It's like fx, y equals to fx. And here, P is your y, Q is your x. Namely, P is dependent variable, and the Q is independent variable. Dependent variable like y, independent variable like x. Okay, so now let's look at the original expression. So first it is demand. So we are looking at QD, and this subscript D stands for demand, equals to 10 minus 2P. Okay, and here, if we were to find the inverse demand, so in this case, Q, which is the dependent variable, is expressed as a function of P. So this is how it is written, okay, in a general term. Q expressed as a function of P. Q is the dependent and P is the independent. Okay, so now the question is to ask us to convert this expression into the inverse, in which the dependent now switch to P and independent now switch to Q. Okay, so how should we do this? We just need to, in this case, Q is your Y, right? And P is your X. But here it is asking that we need to have P as your Y and Q as your X. Okay, so the Y term should stand alone on the left-hand side. So now P is required to be your Y. So we need to move the term including P to the left-hand side, right? So it's 2P, because it's minus 2P moved to the left-hand side. We change the sign into positive, right? Equals to 10, it stays here, nothing changes. And now Q being the X, and X should be on the right-hand side. So QD should be moved to the other side. Okay, so here we are in the intermediate step, okay, in which P is expressed as a function of Q. Is that all? The answer is no, because we need to express this into Y equals to, say, A plus BX format, right? So here, Y should stand alone. Here is your Y, namely P, standing alone by yourself. The answer is no. We need to divide 2 to both sides of your equation to make P here being alone by itself. Okay, so the answer is 5 minus half of Q. There are several ways to express it, like this, or 5 minus 0.5 of Q, because half is 0.5. Okay, so this is your inverse demand. I hope this makes sense to you. Okay, sorry for the sunlight. And now let's go to B. We need to work out the equilibrium price and quantity. So the equilibrium price and quantity, okay. So here we have a supply, we have a demand. The equilibrium price and quantity is when the supply curve and demand curve intersect. Okay, that is to say this point, which is the equilibrium, which is the intersection point, simultaneously fits this line, demand line, and supply line. Okay, so what we need to do is then to solve the solution of P and Q that fits these two at the same time. Okay, this is not difficult to solve by hand because here these two Q's are the same, right? In the equilibrium, QD equals to QS. So that means 10 minus 2p equals 2 plus 2p, right? Since this, the left-hand side of the first one equals to the left-hand side of the second one, then the right-hand side of the first one equals to the right-hand side of the second equation. Then we just need to rearrange things a little bit, okay? We keep the 10 here, we move the 2 to the left-hand side, change the sign into negative. We keep the minus 2p, we move the minus 2p to the other side, so it changes into a positive 2p. And here, don't forget, there is another positive 2p. So here, the result is 8, which is your left-hand side, equals to 4 times of p. So the equilibrium price is 2. Okay, knowing the price, then we just take this into any of these two, either of these two equations to find the equilibrium quantity. Okay, so we take this into the demand, because this point is on the demand. So that's 10 minus 2 by 2, which is 4. So the result is 6. You can double check by plugging this price into your supply function as well. You should get the same result. Otherwise, you know you're wrong. So it's 2 plus 4 equals to 6. Here, it checks. It gives you a way to double check your answer. Okay, so in the result, the equilibrium price and the quantity combination, which stands for the coordinate of this point, the intersection point, namely the equilibrium point, is 2, 6, where 2 is the price and 6 is the quantity. Okay, all right, let's move on to question C.